wanted to do a quick video on sensitivity and the recovery speeds for the Minelab Manticore. The reason I want to cover these two specifically today is these two settings. If you're going to get any other settings wrong, these are the settings to not get wrong. They're really important. They're what powers the machine. So I paid particular attention to detail with these settings as a new user when I first started using the Minelab Manticore. And I was able to pick up tiny hammered coins like these, the size of a thumbnail, on clubland that I was detected on for over 30 years. So yeah, it's important to get them right, and that's what we're going to talk about now. I'm by no means an expert. I've only been detecting for a year, but I do pay particular attention to the settings and how to get them just right to maximize this machine. I mean, what's the point of spending nearly £2 on a metal detector and then just running it like a Equinox 800 on the lowest sensitivity, for example? So yeah, hopefully this chat is going to sort of elaborate on some points that you've probably heard on other videos and you've read through the manual, but also I'll try and bring my experience into it. Even though I've only been doing it for a year, I have done a hell of a lot of hours whilst out metal detecting. So I go out whenever evenings I can, wherever evenings I can, wherever days I can, I get out and about. So yeah, I've got some good user hours, if not loads of time, and I've got some good finds with it. I've had a Viking stirrup mount and a hammered coin and a gold posy ring and tumps of silver and stuff. So considering I'm not, I'm only going out on rallies every week, and permissions when I can, I've done well. But there's obviously guys pushing out and girls pushing out and finding a lot more than me. But I think when I do go out, that's why it's so important. I go out a lot less than other people, busy job, young kids. When I do get out on the ground, I need to make sure I'm maximising my chances. We all know there's a massive element of luck, good land, but you increase your chance of finding something good with good swing technique and really understanding and maximising recovery speed and sensitivity, which is what we're going to go on to now. So the first thing I'm going to show you, then I'm going to bring up some images now of how to adjust sensitivity. We're going to concentrate on sensitivity to start with. Really important. So sensitivity is the engine, it's the power, that 50% extra power that Minelab advertise for the Minelab Manticore isn't necessarily, it doesn't mean it's going to go 50% deeper at all. What it does mean is increase the sensitivity, so it maximizes that, and also more importantly, that I think most of the extra power goes into the superior separation. That's where the Minelab Manticore for me stands out the most. So yeah, I'll bring up some images with that. This is how to adjust the sensitivity, nice and easy. You don't need to press any settings. You literally go into left arrow to turn the sensitivity down, right arrow to turn the sensitivity up. So yeah, so and also I'll bring up another diagram now of how the sensitivity works. Yeah, so how do I do it then, and what have I learned from other people? So you go on the ground, you do your ground balance, you do, if required. Loads of people don't do the ground balance. I'll only do it on poor terrain, like mineralized ground, and you do your noise cancel. You do them as normal, and then you make sure you're still on that clean patch of land, and then you get your recovery speed, your sensitivity to what you want to. So for clean patch land, you want to be looking at least 25, but every bit of ground is different, so you maximize your sensitivity to where you can. So for clean pasture land, you want to be looking at least 25, but push it all the way over to the right. So as soon as you hear too much interference, that's when you want to start notching that sensitivity down a couple of clicks until it's not, making loads of crackling noises in your ears. So yeah, there's no point of having it on 18, 19 on clean pasture land, because then you may as well have a less superior machine and go from there, sort of thing. So yeah, if you think the sensitivity is too unstable and you think you need to turn it down, before doing that, if you've been detecting for a few hours, do another ground balance and noise cancel to make sure that's not the issue. It could also be EMI from your phone. Make sure that's either on airplane mode or tucked at the back as much as possible, if you can. And make sure you're not near any other detectorist, or because the EMI from their machines can sort of cause issues, and like power lines and all the rest of stuff. Anything that can cause electrical magnetic interference, make sure you're away from that. So yeah, for me, this is the important thing, sensitivity. if you get that right, you're going to go deeper into the ground. If you don't, you're going to just um, you may as well have a less superior machine as previously mentioned. So you've got to get the maximum power, but you can't push it too high. It goes the settings go from 1 all the way to 31. So if you get it all the way to 31, that's going to be unworkable in nearly all areas. So you've got to get that sweet spot. So if you can get it to 27, 28, brilliant. But if it's then too crackly, you're going to end up missing targets as well. So get it all the way up and then just notch it down 1 or 2 until you can really punch into that ground. You just be hearing the odd little wisp, those odd little cracks, those little crackles. So if it's completely silent, you're not on high enough sensitivity, you're not punching into the ground high enough, you need to get that sensitivity up a little bit more. And another top tip for myself is don't have fixed settings. So loads of people I know, my dad included, hope you're not watching this, Dad, send me a RC text back, but I think he just has one setting, one way of doing it, goes out, keeps it on 25 or whatever, and he's fixed that. And I know loads of people who do that. It shouldn't be on what you think the best settings are. There are no best settings. We're concentrating on sensitivity and recovery speed now, but there are no best settings. The best settings are individual to the ground. So depending on what mineralization the ground is or an interference around it will depend on how you can adjust your sensitivity. If you've got a massive rally and you're miles away from where you started, you can tweak your sensitivity again, but remembering to do a ground balance and a noise cancel again. So the sensitivity is the most important setting of the machine because that dictates how far you punch down the ground. But as previously mentioned, don't have it up too high that you end up missing targets. So yeah, that's it with the sensitivity. Just play around with it. And then you'll get the sweet spot. But don't have this fixed mentality of this is the way to do it because it's not. Adjust it to the area. That's the beauty with the Minelab Manticore. It's fully customizable. So don't be fixed on one way of doing it. Learn the machine, and then you're gonna get the most out of it. So yeah, another really important set we're going to talk about is recovery speed. So the lower settings generally it opens up. Imagine a couple of targets in one sort of hole. A lower recovery speed will punch down deeper into the ground, but it also opens up the sort of what's the word of looking at, the sort of frequency range for what it picks up. So imagine 2 tags in the same hole, they all blur into one sort of signal. Whereas if you sort of increase the recovery speed, it won't get up so deep. It won't punch into the ground so deep, but it's sort of the separation improves. So yeah, lower recovery speeds will give you better depth, but poorer separation. Higher recovery speeds will give you much better separation, but it won't punch into the ground more. So I always go with separation of 5, the sort of default. And then if I'm on super clean pasture land, I will sort of whack on my 15-inch coil, turn the recovery speed down to 3 and 4, and just swing a little bit slower. And then if I'm on super trashy land, I'll get on my 9-inch coil, the smaller coil, and then I'll increase my recovery speed to about probably about 7 or 8, maybe even 9. But then you're not getting very much depth on 9 at all. A few inches probably, 4 or 5 inches. But to be honest, you've got to play your cards to what you've got to play what card you're dealt. So if you're in a super trashy area, you're gonna and you're there for the day. You've got nothing to do apart from detect that area. You could still pick up some cracking targets in greenway sites, but you've got to be super patient and you've got to maximize our machine. This is where the Minelab Manticore comes into its full sort of power of customization, and the recovery speed and sensitivity, they all sort of blend in. So if you're in a trashy area, you want to turn your sensitivity down to 20, 21, 22, maybe a bit lower, maybe 18, 19, small coil on, smallest coil for better separation, increase the recovery speed for even better separation. So we're trying to play what card we're dealt, if that makes sense. And yeah, and the 15-inch coil with a higher recovery, a lower recovery speed, and you can put up the sensitivity as well on super clean pasture lands. What I always do when I get out to a rally or any event on land I've not been on, but apparently it's been recce's, I literally go to the middle ground. I'll have sort of 11-inch coil on, the sort of default stock coil, because that's best of both worlds, good depth and good sort of decent separation, really good separation, and then I'll hit the ground running. And then if it's super trashy, I'll whack my small coil on and put the trash reject sort of settings on. And then if it's super clean, I might come back at lunch, whack the 15 on, and adjust my Manticore for there. So the coils are just as important as the settings for the sort of recovery and the sensitivity as well. So yeah, that's just again, that's just playing around with it and learning what's best for you with that. Also swing speed and swing technique. So we can talk about all this technical stuff till we're blue in the face. I know, and you probably hear this on all the YouTube videos and you get told it by your mates, but sometimes some people, no matter how many times they get told, that pendulum swing, I'm just wondering how many targets they miss. Don't get me wrong, they might walk over more central targets to me and just do better on a particular day. But on average, like if you're detecting 2 to 3 inches off the ground and your pendulum swinging, so what I mean by that is like rather than your coil sweeping and keeping a couple of 1 or 2 centimeters from the ground, not physically scraping it, but almost, it's definitely brushing the grass, that's for sure. So you're not losing any depth. Instead of your coil doing that, pendulum swingers just do that. So they're literally only getting good coverage for the center part they're walking on. The rest of it, they're losing all that to the side of them. So yeah, just take your time. That saying low and slow is correct. However, you've got to make sure your swing speed's correct to your recovery speed, because the higher recovery speed you can generally swing a little bit quicker, and then a lower recovery speed you want to be slowing it down a little bit. So you're looking at 2 to 3 seconds per swing from starting swinging over to the left and then back to the right. You're looking at 2 to 3 seconds. Any quicker you might miss a target, and any slower you also might miss a target because it relies on movement. So the best thing you can do with that, what I always do is just get the test bed out, because when I'm on a bit of a dry spell for hammered coins, I start doubting myself, start doubting the machine. Get the test bed out, do a couple of hammered coins in, or coins to replicate hammered coins, or silver sixpences, or whatever you've got, and just run through a test bed. Then I'm not missing anything. I just haven't walked over it yet. Do you know what I mean? So there's a massive element of luck involved, but also the right recovery speed, sensitivity, right coil, right ground, right settings will all help out as well. Yeah, so to summarize then, I've already mentioned it early on during the middle of this little chat. The most important thing is don't have one setting. That's it. So following some YouTuber settings, and that's it. I'm off to the races. Some beach settings or some Asian artifact settings. Always use the different settings for the different terrain, as we've spoken about, and like you can check out some of my other YouTube tutorials as well. Adjust it to the ground, and that's going to help you out loads. So as I mentioned, different size coils for different recovery speeds, different sensitivity, then you can't go wrong from there. What I'd recommend with any new Minelab Manticore user is don't go onto YouTube and follow someone who's been doing it for a decade settings. For a start, like what you want to be doing is just keep up. Personally, this is my personal opinion anyway, unless you've got loads of experience with the 800 and you're really technically minded, then crack on. But the factory settings, I mean the factory programs for the All Terrain General, for example, that's where I use, and I make some tweaks. I just open up the iron bias by 1. That's all. A little bit like the Luke Van Ash program, but instead I pretty much copy his, but I do, like, instead of 1 tone all region, I do 5 tones because it sounds the same as the 800, and I make another couple of tweaks as well, very minor ones. It's almost identical to that. But if you're a new user, I would advise you just to keep the factory settings, like just use the All Terrain General or All Terrain Fast, and only adjust the sensitivity and recovery speed. Recovery speed at 5 on most clean land is ideal. So yeah, don't be too adventurous to start with. Use the settings that's programmed in. These are field tested by engineers and really experienced detectorists to get the most out of the machine. They will not want to be giving you a £2,000 machine and having their program settings that don't work. All you can do after you've picked up a bit more experience, after a few months, you can then make small refinements to the programs just to open it up. And again, this might be like on Roman sites, loads of Roman sites are iron infested. So you can literally remove all that. You can do that by just turning your horseshoe on, so that opens up the whole thing. Or you can run with a program where you literally open up the whole iron bias, so it's just like pretty much one on the top and one on the bottom. Excuse me. And then you sort of what you're hearing, listening for with the iron. You can turn the iron tones down, so it's buzzing away, but you can hardly hear them. But when a good tone comes in, you're on that then straight away, like a tramp on chips. And so yeah, just play around with it after a few months. Don't start making loads of crazy changes. Just as a new user now, that is, just adjust the recovery speed, sensitivity, and all the other things you can adjust. Like the normal things like volume, put the screen display onto screen brightness onto self automatic, so it's a cross diagonal line, so it'll adjust your brightness for you during day and night. Another top tip is volume. So you've got the volume on the machine, but also the volume on your headset. It's got its own separate entity as well for the Manticore. So adjust that as well to your suiting. And what I mean by that is, yeah, you might think you've got the volume up all the way on the machine, but the actual headphones have got a plus, a minus button. Make sure it's cranked up all the way on that, or at least set to what volume you want it on. I have mine on full whack, just so I know I'm definitely not missing any targets and stuff. So, yeah, it's been quite a long chat. But honestly, like if you get the two things right on this machine, I've definitely found things that loads of people with really expensive machines and good machines like the Deus 2 and stuff like that have definitely walked over the items I found, because that tiny hammer, tiny hammer that I showed you earlier, that was on Clubland, been detected on for 30 years. So that's definitely been missed by hundreds, if not hundreds of people, where there was just a little bit of like iron on the top. And then this was about that tiny coin, that tiny hammered coin, the size of a thumbnail, was about 10 or 11 inches down. It was deep. I just about winkled it out. And I guarantee if my coil wasn't scraping the ground, if I didn't have the correct coil on, which was 11-inch coil for that ground, which is there's a little bit of junk there, but not too much to need to get my 9-inch coil on. If I didn't have all the correct things, I would have missed that target 100%. And it was such a scratchy little thing because it's so deep and so small. So those tiny little hammers, you've got to be really like listening to. Don't get me wrong, like my Lizzie penny, 6p. That's like a dustbin lid. That's gonna walk over that, and with any call and nearly all the settings, it's gonna like blow your ears out. You're gonna hear that pretty deep. But those tiny little hammers, okay, yeah, you need to be really paying attention to that, making sure your sensitivity is up to the max, your recovery speed. Yeah, don't think, those YouTubers, Dave said, lower it down, goes deeper, because then like you completely throw your separation out, and you could have a nightmare of a day of digging what you think's a good target, but actually it's not. Or more importantly, if you lower your recovery speed too much, there's a bit of iron there and a good target there, kind of a few inches separated, it'll blur it all together into one target. So yeah, you want your recovery speed and sensitivity to be like bob on, really. Yeah, it's all, nothing I've said there isn't information that's in the pamphlet anyway, but I've just put my own personal experience on it as well, and bits and bobs where I picked up from other people in this hobby in my first year. But yeah, if you've got any comments, or if you do things differently, like, yeah, whack them in the comments box. But remember, I said I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. This is just one of the ways to do it, and it's flexible. You need to be changing the settings to the ground. Thanks for your time, guys. If you want to see more, check out my TikTok as well, at the Artifact Addict. I've got loads of stuff on there now. TikTok is like, I've been doing live streams as well, which has been really cool. I'm hoping to get some more longer content out within the next couple of weeks as well, once I can get on a dig and get some video editing done. But I do sort of daily posts as well on my shorts. I post everything as well, or nearly everything. You couldn't post every hole, as you know, for the guys who do this hobby. You go out and you can dig like 100 targets a day, so that'd be unrealistic to post them. But I try and push out 2 to 3 posts a day of the short 6-second clips of like, bang, this is what it is, just to show the reality of detecting. Really, it's not all hammered coins, gold posy rings, and stuff like that. Sometimes, like, it is trashy bits as well. Oh, tell you another sort of find I forgot to talk about as well is this. This is probably like my favourite find, actually, and I can't believe I nearly forgot it. Bronze Age spearheads, only about 6 or 7 inches down. It must have been turned over that land, just waiting there for me for 3,000 years to dig that up. That's a cracking find. Just after we started forging metals. So yeah, dawn of mankind stuff really is awesome. That's why I love this hobby. But anyway, thanks for your time. Enough waffle for me. Happy hunting. Pop in the comments box if you want what your best finds are. Are you looking at getting a Manticore? Are you a brand new user? I'm happy to comment on tips for machines at entry level and stuff as well. And yeah, just have a good time metal detecting, guys. Cheers.